Hello and welcome to this review of my Fujitsu MBC-885 keyboard. I bought this keyboard a few years ago on eBay. It was fairly cheap as I recall, and it was a pretty decent deal I think. It's in very nice condition, which is good because the switches in this aren't immune to dirt incursion, but they're very nice if obtained clean. I'm talking about Fujitsu leaf springs, of course. These are the 3rd gen linear ones, which I haven't talked about in a while. They're very smooth, light linears that use a clever design with a flat horizontal switch blade soldered to a PCB. Most uncommonly for a mechanical switch, it doesn't use a coil spring at all, or even a rubber dome or sleeve. Instead, it generates a return force from a large irregularly shaped leaf spring on top of the switch plate that also acts as the actuator. This is in contrast to many designs such as Cherry MX and Alps SKCM that use an orthogonal actuation force rather than a parallel one, with the result that you get a rubbing motion which increases the friction inherent in the key travel. In other words, this system is a way to use a more or less contactless motion to power a contact-based design. And this is very nice because contactless switches have the potential to be much smoother than contact-based designs. And they certainly deliver because this board is absolutely buttery smooth. It's sheer delight. And the weighting is excellent in my opinion. It's light and responsive, but not so light that just the weight of your fingers sets them off. Well, when I say that, I'm basing that on my experience with another Fujitsu leaf spring keyboard, because many of these old Fujitsu keyboards are notoriously difficult to convert. This one uses a 5-pin DIN connector, just like AT and XT keyboards, but it doesn't respond to any of the converters I have. Hence, I can't actually use this with a modern computer, which is a shame because it's such a nice keyboard. It's got an XT layout, but it is from as late as 1987, at which point this would have been somewhat old-fashioned. It does, however, have lock lights, which I suspect are keyboard-controlled rather than computer-controlled, because this belonged to an XT class system, and those were only capable of unidirectional communication. So the keyboard could talk to the computer, but not the other way around. Hence, the computer wouldn't be able to let the keyboard know whether caps lock was on or not, so it would have had to keep track of that itself. The computer it belonged to was a Sanyo MBC-885, an XT clone from the early 80s based on an Intel 8088 chipset. It's a really quite obscure system, there's not that much information on it available. They had a portable system as well, the MBC-775, which used an extremely similar keyboard. Just like my MBC-550 keyboard, which was also from a Sanyo computer, this one was made by Fujitsu, which is nice because Fujitsu used to really kick ass back in those days. You can instantly tell it's a Fujitsu keyboard by its keycaps, which are their trademark tombstone-shaped double shots. These are very distinctive and easy to recognize, so if you're looking for an old Fujitsu keyboard to try out, be on the lookout for caps like this. These replaced their earlier spherical double shots that were also present on the MBC-550, but they share the same incredible thickness of a full 3mm, which is still the record holder for thickest keycaps I've ever seen. At fully twice as thick as Cherry's OG double shots, these are some serious units. They even sound meaty when you just throw them on a desk. You might also have noticed that the lettering isn't black but actually grey, and they have 3 shades of keycap colour, with the enter keys extra dark with white legends. The bigger keys are also stepped, just like the Model F XT keyboard it's based on, but even if you push them on the lower parts they go down fine, which is remarkable because these keys aren't stabilised at all. Partly because of the caps and partly because of the roomy plastic case, this keyboard has an extraordinarily thick sound to it. It's not a quiet board, even though it's not even clicky or anything, but the acoustics are excellent. Listen to this. The bigger keys sound great too, even the 9.75 unit spacebar. It is a bit rattly if you let it go too quickly on the upstroke, but it still sounds good in my opinion. The build quality is pretty good. The case is tough, thick plastic, and the board sports a steel mounting plate for the top part of the switches. The bottom part is held PCB side. The unit weighs a little bit under 1.7 kilos, that's about 40 rods to the hogshead for you Imperial folk out there, and it feels quite sturdy. It also flexes relatively little. Of note are the very large bezels on all the sides, giving this a greater footprint than you would expect of a typical 83-key keyboard. Overall, it's a really nice keyboard. It's just a shame I can't use it on my computer. The only FLS3 keyboard I know of that works with standard commercial converters is the Tandy 3000 keyboard, which I covered in an earlier review. That one was in slightly worse condition, but was still really nice to use. Now, recently there's been such huge leaps forward in linear key switch design that you no longer really need to get something like this if it's the smoothness that you're after. For example, the Razer Huntsman and the SteelSeries Apex Pro easily beat it in that department. But if it's sound that you're after, it's still worth considering, I'd say. That's it for this review. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.